one of the things I've always heard from wrestling fans and also other wrestlers who like to watch WWE is that the WWE needs to bring back the Attitude Era because the PG era sucks balls. Okay, well, I think it's the wife again. Let's check. Hey, don't you see I'm doing a Rant video? Again!
Pass me a book.
Can you believe she likes this stuff? Ugh, all that smut. Here you go, Kim Cat. Leave me alone.
You just called me a...
I said smut. Ow! Wives. Anyway, where was it? Oh yeah. The Attitude Era. A lot of fans out there want the Attitude Era to come back. That they think that the Attitude Era is desperately needed for the WWE to get back in the swing of things. Now, in my humble opinion, WWE does not need the Attitude Era to improve. Wanna know why? Because the Attitude Era already outlived its usefulness. If you really think about it, the real purpose, the real reason as to why the WWE went with the Attitude Era is for competition purposes. Because during like the early time, the 80s and the early 90s, they were kind of losing a lot of viewership. Part of it had to do with the fact of the steroid scandal with Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon got off on all charges and stuff, and it was kind of hurting the business a little bit. And also had more to do with the fact of, well, WCW's NWO, and also the edgy and raunchy atmosphere of ECW. If you remember, WWF at the time was having fans chanting ECW, ECW, and of course, Vince McMahon did some collaboration with ECW, but then with this whole ratings war, WCW was kicking WWE's ass, like badly, because, well, Hulk Hogan turned heel, which is like the biggest heel turn of all time. So how are you gonna get your fans back? Well, do something new, do something fresh, do something different, and that was doing the Attitude Era. You have guys who have all these weird characters coming in, but I wouldn't say I call them characters, more like another extension of a person's personality. Like, bring their own personality and like amplify it, to a certain degree. Think about Triple H. He was a Connecticut blue blood, and now he turned into this rebel guy when he was part of DX. Shawn Michaels, the sexy boy, and he was being very rebellious. Or you have The Undertaker, who's actually, supposed to be a dead man, but then he starts talking more often, like a human being, and a demonic character who runs a cult called the Ministry of Darkness. And then you had Mick Foley, who was actually a dark character and then turned into a comedic character. Things like that, and you had porn stars becoming wrestlers and stuff like that. But anyway, I think I'm rambling right now. but yeah, it was mainly because they want to use it to try to get back their viewers. To get us stray away from the WCW and come back home to us, the WWE or WWF at the time. That was pretty much the purpose of it. And once WWE purchased WCW, that was pretty much it. The war was over. And if you ever notice, after 2001, the product started to decline a little bit, if you ever notice, because there was no one to fight against. There was no more major competition. WCW was its major competition, and ECW probably would have, but WWE purchased them too. So without like someone to actually keep them on their toes, I mean, their product got stale. You know what I mean? I mean, if you think about it, during the 2001 to now, they have made some attempts to bring back that Attitude Era Monday Night War atmosphere, if you ever notice. Like, for example, bringing in WCW and ECW, doing the whole alliance thing. And on paper, that was actually, it was good on paper, but I think the execution really sucked. It really, really sucked. And I didn't like how it ended, you know. So that was one. You know, second time they tried to make that attempt was bringing back the NWO, which honestly I thought, you know, at first I liked it for novelty reasons, but I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. But they were trying to bring back that whole atmosphere that makes people want to watch more. Another attempt was, you know, bringing DX back together with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. That was one attempt, but again, it was more novelty than, you know, long-term thing. And then bringing back ECW, you know, and we know how that turned out. In my opinion, if Paul Heyman was running things for ECW, even though it's under the WWE ban, I think it would have been a lot better, but it didn't. And, you know, also having The Rock come back, it kind of brings in that Attitude Era feeling, but not quite. So, in a way, WWE has made attempts to bring back that feeling, the Attitude Era feeling. But it turns out it's more of a novelty now. You know, now in this day and age, in this era of wrestling, I feel that WWE is trying to get back to its main goal, the main goal that it's been doing for throughout the 80s and early 90s was for the kids. If you ever noticed the programming back in WWF days, you know, they were more on the kids. I mean, the merchandising, Hulk Hogan always say, train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. It was more for the kids. And if you ever notice with the programming, they panned more on the reaction of the children to certain matches. I mean, when you see Undertaker come in, they want to go to see what the kids' reaction to see Undertaker come out. And you see kids like covering their faces, hiding and stuff like that, because they were actually scared of the Undertaker. Hell, I was scared of the Undertaker when I was younger. That was a scary dude. The same thing, like say Hulk Hogan. You know, they want to see a kid's reaction when Hulk Hogan comes out. And they always have a close-up on those kids. And they have close-ups on certain adults and stuff like that. Some kids were crying in the fact that Shawn Michaels betrayed Marty Jannetty and stuff like that. And it amplifies more when you target the children, because, to be honest with you, children still believe in the concept of suspending disbelief. That concept still applies to them. Where to people like me and teenagers, not so much, you know. But then you have like WCW, who, you know, was so much wrestling and little entertainment, but they start doing more on the entertainment when they had the NWO and Hulk Hogan coming in. But if you ever notice how they didn't really do much on doing close-ups on children, and don't get me started with ECW, there was hardly any children in there, or women. Ask Mick Foley. But the bottom line was, for WWE, it was that fan base. The fan base was the children. And then with the Attitude Era, it turned from children to teenagers, college students, and the male demographic. And it was powerful at the time. But now, times have changed. And now, with this PG era, which a lot of people believe that has more to do with, you know, Linda McMahon's Senate race in Connecticut, which that could be the case. And also, you know, their licensing deal with Mattel could be another factor. But to be honest with you, I think it was more had to do with the fact that, well, you have a guy like John Cena who's attracting a lot of children, where a lot of kids want to be like him, especially the boys want to be like him. And you have women who want to be with him. And if you combine the women demographic and the children demographic, it outweighs the male demographic. And to my opinion and my knowledge, the wrestling fan demographic is mostly males, you know. So where do you think WWE is gonna go after? The hardcore fans or the casual children and female demographic, which is huge. So they went after that. So with the PG era, it makes, puts mothers at ease that it's okay for our kids to watch this program because it's kid friendly. And honestly, it's more profitable. Believe it or not, it's more profitable. I mean, look how much merchandise they're selling. Yes, the ratings is not as big as it used to, but the bottom line is WWE is filling up seats. I mean, people are still buying tickets. People are still buying pay-per-views. People are still, somewhat watching the program. But the main thing is the merchandise is selling. I mean, I'm a teacher and I go to school all the time. I go to school and I see a kid with a John Cena t-shirt, John Cena hat, Randy Orton, shorts or something like that. I mean, there was like WWE merchandise all over the place in the school I work at. So with this whole, people saying like, oh, I want the Attitude Era back. I'm sorry. I mean, I love the Attitude Era just as much as the next hardcore fan. But WWE doesn't need it anymore. There's no threat to them except themselves, because they are dropping the ball at some things, but TNA is not much of a threat, so why do they have to go back to the raunchy stuff? They don't need it. They absolutely don't need it. The PG era is pretty much going back to the way they were in the 80s and the early 90s. All about the kids. And to be honest with you, it is kind of profiting. Again, merchandise is selling. Pay-per-views are still being bought. And of course you have those guys like The Rock coming back, the Brooklyn Brawler coming back, and the Tommy Dreamer coming back. But that's just a novelty. It's a novelty for guys like us. But for kids, some kids don't even know who Tommy Dreamer is. Some kids don't even know who the Brooklyn Brawler is. Or even Mick Foley. Some people don't even know who Mick Foley is. But it is what it is, It's the PG era. It's the in thing. It's for the new generation of fans. And speaking of new generation of fans, the guys who are begging for the Attitude Era to come back is guys who are in my age range. I mean, I'm about to be 30 in a few days. It's from like people who've watched it since they were teenagers and then on. So I would say around like 20 to 40 to on, who are the ones who are begging for the Attitude Era to come back. And this might sound a little bit crazy, but it's kind of old folkish. I was always saying to myself, I would never be that old guy that says, oh, television was so great back in the days, it was better than this crap, or music was actually a lot better, it was better than this Lady Gaga bullshit. And now here we are and here we are saying that wrestling back in the day is a lot better than today. So in closing, to the guys who are begging for the Attitude Era to come back, if you want the Attitude Era back so badly, here's a few things to consider. See this? WWE actually made a DVD on the Attitude Era. I suggest you either buy it, if it's on Netflix, watch it. And you get all the Attitude Era stuff you need. It has matches in there that makes you remember about the good old days of the 4 years of raunchiness and stuff like that of wrestling. Buy the DVD. And if you don't want the DVD, then there's YouTube. You have like scores and scores and scores of wrestling from the Attitude Era. Watch those. And now you have WWE 13, the video game, which has an option to play the Attitude Era. So in a way, WWE is playing fan service for us old fogey guys. That's all I have to say. I know this is probably going to be very unpopular to those guys who want the Attitude Era, but you know what? It is what it is. If you don't like the PG era, then don't watch WWE at all. But you know the funny thing is, it's just that you complain about WWE, yet you still watch it. I guess you still are fans of WWE, whether you want to admit it or not. Anyway, this is Dual Dreamer, rant number 3. Have a nice day.